What's up, y'all? Welcome back to the Ashe Vibe Show. My name is Malik Harris.
My name is Derek Moore, and this is Scott.
Yes. And today we are the Ashe Vibe Show, and we are here to
Vibe with the tribe.
Today we are watching another League of Legends lore, still here cinematic explained video. Yeah, I think we did one to the
I'm here. I've been here, and I'm still here.
Right. And we've been here for, or we did the Blood, Sweat, and Tears, or what is it? Blood, Sweat, and Tears?
Blood, Sweat, and Tears. We did a few of them.
Yeah, we did a few like cinematic breakdowns and stuff like that, but it's been a while. Still Here was one of the more popular videos that people were requesting for us to watch at the time, so I thought it would be fun to go back and, kind of check out the behind the scenes, because I feel like we just never got to this. There's a couple of videos that we kind of got caught up in the arcane rush. We got caught up in them jumping into the Noxus season and everything like that, so we're going to do this. We're going to do Hall of Fame Faker, and then a couple other videos. So if there's other ones that we're not thinking of, definitely post in the comments and let us know, and we will jump into it.
We're going to try to do it like Pokemon and hit them all. We're going to hit them all.
Right. But yeah, let's just jump into this and then see what type of lore we can learn about that.
That was cool. I still have... Yeah. After this, the scene shows us...
Nah, it's been doing this on people's like YouTube, so they do reactions and shit.
Yourself, that was cool. I still have no idea what happened. You would not be alone. And that's most likely because you don't know the ins and outs of League's lore. Which I can assure you is totally normal. Most people are too lazy to read. And it just so happens to be that not only is still here our first League cinematic that is fully canon from the get-go, but also the cinematic is an absolute love letter to League's lore community. Because it is not only full of interesting details, but it is also overflowing with lore references. So no matter if you wonder why Kayle and Morgana look different, why Yasuo is old now, or if you don't even play League and you just saw a cool cinematic and you want to learn about it, this video should help with that. So let's explain what exactly happened in League's newest cinematic, Still Here.
Blew that man back.
Oh yeah.
Right at the beginning, you can hear a quote. "Tomorrow is a hope, never a promise," which came from Kindred, who are the twin deathly spirits, also known as the Lamb and the Wolf, who very simply put, in League's universe, represent death. They are sort of like the Grim Reaper. After which the cinematic starts with a cut into the Freljord, where, after a fierce battle shown by the number of soldiers scattered around, the barbarian king Tryndamere was finally brought to his knees. His enemies are most likely the Wintersclaw tribe. Because as you'll see, this entire scene happens in the present times. In the second shot, you can see that his very iconic helmet had fallen off. You can actually see it here in the cinematic. After which, Tryndamere looks up at the brink of his strength, and he sees the faint silhouette of a figure with a bow. Of course, this is referencing the lamb, indicating that death had come for him. Though, as you'll see later, there is more than one twist.
Ashe, is that you?
In the next scene, we actually travel to the past. Specifically, here we can see ancient Demacia. This was after Demacia was founded as a safe haven from magic, but before the nation became a haven for racists against magic. Since most of the really bad hatred was fueled by the conflict between Kayle and Morgana, which would happen later. This also means that at this point, Demacia has not progressed that far with the research of Petricite, which is the pale stone that can absorb magic. And as a result, if you look at the buildings here, you can see they do not resemble the white buildings just yet. Another thing to point out here is the sea of dead soldiers. At first sight, you might think that all of these are ancient Demacians who just got slaughtered by the Darkin demigod Atrox. But that's not entirely the truth. Now, for the sake of simplicity, I am not going to explain what the Darkin are. Just know that they are corrupted, power-hungry demigods. But we have to mention something for an important detail that happens later. The Darkin are demigods wielding blood magic who got banished inside their weapons. And in Atrox's case, he was bound inside his greatsword. The body you can see here is actually the body of a mortal who picked up the weapon, after which Atrox transformed them and dominated their mind.
I do want to pause a little bit. For those of you who are new, we have went through like a bunch of different lore videos, so when it comes to like all the Darkin, Atrox, a lot of the stuff we do know, so like if you see us like talking over a certain part or something like that, that's because because a lot of this is stuff that we've already are familiar with. And I know sometimes when people are new and they come in, they're like, "You're not even watching." I mean, right now we're locked in, I think, but
we for sure locked in.
Yeah, you never know. I want to disclaimer that before.
No, before you even
got
plus
30
play
minutes.
again, we low key kind of had an argument about this shit back in the past. Of like, not even an argument, it's just a quick debate. Was it him, Atrox? Or was it somebody before? Or was it the Darkin? And like, you know what I'm saying?
Because we were talking about, like, as far as his body, is he only the sword and he, someone picks up the sword and then he creates flesh over it and stuff like that?
So Atrox was a Darkin and then he ended up possessing this guy and then now he's this big ass.
Yeah, you know? Atrox was a Darkin and then he died. I think, was he explaining the maybe?
He just said it. He said he just took this immortal or...
he got trapped inside the sword and then the sword created.
The nigga grabbed the sword and then created him. Not possessed by Atrox, but fuck that. That's Atrox, nigga. I like that shit.
How he looks visually.
How he look visually, yeah.
It's interesting. I wonder if whenever Atrox grabs, like a new host grabs the sword and then he starts to build the flesh over that new person, is it the exact same look? Or if a big ass dude grabs it, does he automatically become bigger? If a small little kid grabs it,
it's just the same look, but it's just like a different... I get what you're saying.
Yeah. Interesting. I mean, I've only seen him in one form outside of his skins and stuff like that.
That's what I'm saying.
But yeah, interesting stuff.
Is there images? Hey, is there images out of like the original Atrox, or is it...
We should do a Atrox diving. We'll do a lore diving video. Okay, I think we need to do all the Darkin in general. I think we kind of talked about that. That'd be a good idea. I'll make a note.
Nah, that'd be dope, because I want to know about all the different Darkins and shit like that. That'd be cool.
Yeah.
Up the weapon, after which Atrox transformed them and dominated their mind. You will see that this will get cool in just a moment. Anyway, next, as the scene cuts to Kayle and Morgana. For only half a second, you can see that Morgana dropped a soldier. She almost disrespectfully threw him to the ground, which indicates that the soldier was not an ancient Demacian, but rather it was an enemy. So Atrox didn't do all of this alone, which would make sense because the Darkin, such as Atrox, used to build their own warbands of mortals by either enslaving them or by turning them into worshippers who believed they were gods. This was especially common during the Great Darkin Wars, though this entire scene is happening after that. So these barbaric marauders were just Atrox's followers who attacked Demacia. After this, the scene shows us the early version of the Demacian armor. You can see they are yet to reach their glorious design with petrified steel. You can also see some hints of that in the armor scattered around the battlefield. And that's just as Kayle and Morgana look up towards the sky where Atrox is waiting. Now of course, many of you may know that in-game, Kayle has 2 swords. And Morgana is the mage who roots you for the entire game. So how come Kayle has 1 sword and Morgana has the other one? Well, before Kayle and Morgana became the twin aspects of justice, it was their mother, Mira, who held that title, and who served justice around the world while wielding a celestial blade. Later in her life, she decided to pass her powers onto her 2 twin daughters, and so she split her blade and she gave 1/2 to each of them. It wasn't until the conflict a bit later that Morgana essentially quit her job as an aspect and she gave her blade to Kayle. So at the time of this cinematic, the 2 still serve as the twin aspects, each wielding 1/2 of a celestial blade. Another cool detail here is that as the 2 leap into the sky after Atrox, you can see how Kayle leads the charge with righteousness, with Morgana being the one who simply follows her. That's because Kayle always looked up to their mother and what they fought for, while Morgana was always wary of their newfound powers. That's why in this entire cinematic, Morgana looks a bit more cautious. And before Morgana flies off into the distance too, for the last time, we have some time to see just how tribal Demacia looked at one point. Though even during this time, you can see that some of the buildings already started shaping up. After which, of course, the battle of Atrox and the twin aspects starts. Unfortunately, there is not much to mention here.
forgot his
It
ass
is just a
is
cool
flying,
fight
bro.
of flying
Yeah.
demigods. But eventually, Atrox smacks both of them to the ground. Their side of the fight starts looking grim, and Atrox quickly follows them down. After his epic entry, you can actually see more of his followers charging forward in the background. After which we get another cool reference. As Morgana stands up, she takes her sword and stabs it to the ground, leaving it behind as she focuses on her magic. This is foreshadowing for how later on Morgana gives up on the legacy of their mother. Now of course, this wouldn't get a full approval from Kayle, who always idealized their mother. And so, when she looks up with a frown, you can see the cinematic gives us a scene where Morgana is getting rid of her armor, all while being framed by the sword which she left behind. And then of course, we
I
get to
guess none
see
of this.
Morgana wield her dark
Yeah, this
magic.
feel like it's new
Now
to me,
I
bro.
say
I'm the
dark,
origin.
but in
Right.
reality it is celestial in origin. Morgana is not evil or anything like that. In fact,
Yeah.
she is far better at protecting the people of Demacia than Kayle.
her sister,
But that's a
yeah.
whole another story. And so she uses her celestial chains to bind Atrox to the ground, an obvious reference to her Q ability in the game, which is followed by Kayle picking up Morgana's sword. Again, this is not only a
even
reference
notice
to
that,
what
bro.
Kayle
That's
looks
crazy.
like in-game, but it is also a reference to the fact that later down in her story, she does actually claim Morgana's sword. And by doing that, she fully embraces their mother's legacy. This is also why, when Kayle walks by Morgana, she once again proves that she's the jerk and Morgana is the good one.
I
when
thought
she
that too, I was
gives
like,
her
yeah,
that
asshole.
disapproving look. It is not only directed at the fact that Morgana is using magic in Demacia. During those times, it was not ideal, but they were kinda forced into it. More than that, Kayle is simply disappointed by the fact that Morgana would
Disarm
dare
her
to leave
sword.
their mother's sword behind.
I know,
Especially
bro.
if she's doing that to only focus on her magic. That's the real point of this scene. After which, even though Morgana
detail.
carried the
Hey,
crap
pause it,
out
bro,
of this
pause
fight,
it, bro.
using
I just gotta put this in, and you can think about this in real time, like in the comments. It's just
Mm-hmm.
like sometimes family members, it just be your family members, man.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Your own people that
Yeah.
love you and stuff like that. She's so disgusted with magic and the fact that she would disown her mother to put the sword down, that the magic actually helped you motherfuckers probably survived in this incident. You feel me?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I just had to throw that in there. It was weighing heavy on me.
No, I feel that. No, that's all true. That's all true. And I feel like that's like the complexity in some of the lead characters that, yeah, that I really like. You know, same as like Warhammer, like that dynamic of no one's really good, everyone's evil in a certain way, and they all have like their motives and this and that.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I feel like
Their
League
way
is-
of living is way more important than what's right and what's wrong. You know what
Yeah,
I'm
exactly,
saying?
exactly. Yeah. In this instance.
That's all I had to add to it.
Yeah, I think even them writing Kayle being like more, I guess, for lack of better words, like more the more evil one, and then Morgana being like kind of the nicer one, but she looks like she's using
She's
dark
more,
magic and this and that.
yeah,
Like,
using more
yeah, the
dark
complexity of the relationship is really dope. I really like it.
uses her passive ability from the game, she calls upon the righteous flames, and she burns Atrox. The funny part here is that after this fight
Righteous
is
flames
over,
burn
Kayle
Atrox.
has to kinda awkwardly walk back to Morgana and give her the blade back. Because again, this scene is not how Kayle claimed
I guess
Morgana's
Atrox isn't
sword.
fire.
That happens later.
Just
Anyway,
around fire.
this is where the final awesome detail of the story happens. First of all, when the righteous flame burns Atrox, for
Righteous
only a
flame.
single second, you can see that Atrox dropped his sword.
Hmm.
Since he is a Darkin, this indicates that his soul went back to the blade. But what's interesting is that in this scene, it might be the first time Atrox got ever sealed. The vast majority of the Darkin got sealed at the end of the Darkin War, where a celestial aspect came down and helped mortals seal everyone. But some of the Darkin successfully fled away, and it was mentioned that Atrox was one of them. And since this is happening sometime after the
she got a
Darkin
celestial
Wars were
sword.
already over, it is possible that this is the moment Atrox got caught. Because we know that he had to get sealed eventually. Because later he gets picked up by another soldier and he gets his entire story with Tryndamere and Pantheon. So this might be a lot more of a historical moment than most people might imagine.
Damn.
Anyway, even cooler than this are the last few frames from this scene.
We get to see him a little bit.
Once again, you can see a mysterious figure standing on one leg holding a bow, which is the iconic pose
Kindred.
of the lamb, representing death. This one has some absolutely awesome implications. You see, the reason why Atrox is
bro?
extra
No.
I know that one's kind of crazy. Like, I'm like,
That was a little stretch, bro. 'Cause I was looking for it. It was like a little faint. It was faint. I seen it. It was like,
right. It
was faint, bro.
one of those where I was sitting there looking to. I'm like fucking zoomed in over here. I'm like, huh. Okay, I'm just gonna accept. Yeah. Like, huh?
One leg holding a bow.
Alright, Necrit. I might need a phone call later, bro. You might have to call me on the phone, bro. We gotta talk about this.
There's a light glare on the screen, so I thought maybe. I don't know. Alright.
Which is the iconic pose of the lamb, representing death. This one has some absolutely awesome implications.
The leg not
you see,
even
the reason why Atrox is extra evil and he is driven by slaughter is because he just wants to die. He hates his corrupted form. He hates the blood magic binding him. But it just so happens to be that the Darkin are immortal. He is simply never going to escape this prison. His end always waits for him inside his weapon. Which is why Atrox simply wants to destroy the entire world. In his mind, that would be the only way to end this suffering. He can't.
You're still gonna be in the fucking weapon.
So
Even he's sealed in a weapon, bruh. So like, what if he kills a Celestial? He's automatically out. Like, how does that work?
I don't think he actually has the answer for that. I think he's just hoping, kind of like Mordekaiser's hoping. He went to the afterlife and he was hoping to be in, fucking see his forever kingdom, and then he didn't. He was like, oh shit. That's not what I was. That's not what I was expecting. I feel like that's probably where Atrox is at too. And I think now that they're just explaining that might have been the first time he got sealed in the sword. I'm assuming that this is just how he generally looked, and then he got sealed in the sword, and then whenever he comes out, he gets his original look back.
So we got our answer. Our questions
so
answered.
this is this is the look. You know what I mean? I guess based off what he's saying right now, I think.
And be imprisoned if there is no prison. And because he's immortal, you can see weapon. Which is why Atrox simply wants to destroy the entire world. In his mind, that would be the only way to end this suffering.
Yeah,
he
in
can't
his
be
mind.
imprisoned if there is no prison. And because he's immortal, you can see the lamb in the fire. But she's simply watching him, not doing anything. Because death can't claim Atrox. And then the cinematic cuts to perhaps the most badass part. This is where all the major dogs happened. So let's break it down. Of course, this scene takes us to Ionia. However, this is Ionia about 30 to 40 years in the future from the present days. Take it for what it is for now, we'll explain this time skip later. Here we can see some bandits burning a village. They are wearing masks, which of course are very popular in Ionia because they are connected to legends and demons.
Naruto.
And at first, this made me think that these might be related to the Shadow Order. But as you'll see later, there is no shadow magic to be seen here. So these are far more likely to be related to Navori, which is a group of a little bit too patriotic Ionians, who are not afraid of attacking other Ionians if they don't share their views. That's also why you can see that they are attacking other Ionians here. And after this, a mysterious man with a staff draws a line in the dirt. This is a hypothetical line as well as a literal one. It simply tells them to not go any further. I love how this cinematic can tell us all of this without saying a word. A very common theme in this entire cinematic. Anyway, the two bandits laugh at the drawn line, we get a bit of a western standoff, after which, in an extremely subtle way, the cinematic reveals who this man is. Up to this point, when I first watched this, I wasn't sure if this was Elder Suma or Master Doran,
Right, 'cause he was so
but in
old.
fact, with a very slight
crazy.
tilt of his head, the scene reveals the scar on his face,
Come on, bro, I
which
can't even see it.
always belonged to Yasuo. And this is where things get absolutely wild.
Starting to believe something's
When
wrong
the
with this
bandits
TV.
attack, you can see that Yasuo is not using his sword. In fact, his sword is nowhere to be seen around him. But what's more interesting, he is not even using the wind technique. And that's because Yasuo has a very clear purpose in how he's fighting them here. If you look closely, you can see that he's not killing anyone. And the reason for this is very simple.
busting their head
Yasuo
open.
has been murdering people with wind his entire life. And if you really look into his story, you might notice that the wind never brought anything good into his life. In fact, using the wind technique made other people suspect that he murdered his master. So the wind is the reason why he got exiled from his home. So it wouldn't be
That's
too
fucked up.
far-fetched to believe that Yasuo was simply done with using the wind, especially if it was taking lives. And you'll see that all of this is heavily reinforced in this entire scene. Of course, during this fight, without the wind or his blade, you can see the bandits actually managed to knock Yasuo down, where he faces the option to use the blade. Here people should notice that this is not Yasuo's blade. It is the blade of one of the bandits, which Yasuo knocked out of their hand earlier on. Now, as Yasuo looks up, you can see the shock
There it
in
is.
his face. This is when he realized that without his wind technique, he can't
can't do
protect this
nothing.
village. After which, the cinematic reveals some more bandits, with their boss in the middle. Although, unfortunately, this is entirely new character, so there is nothing to mention here. And then, we got the beautiful scene where Yasuo faces his destiny. First of all, he still has the bottle on him, so he is still an alcoholic, even at his respectable age. But also,
nothing
he
with a quick
drops
turn up.
his
He's not a
staff,
quitter.
which indicates that he's done pretending to be someone he's not. After which the leader
Always be
signals
you.
the archers. Until the very last moment, you can see that Yasuo does not want to do it. But eventually, he picks up the blade to defend himself. And not only is he defending himself by physically using the blade, but also by using it to channel the wind and making the iconic wind wall. Here, the cinematic is actually showing us that he can use the wind wall on purpose. It is not just a cool reference to his ability in the game. This one has a wild payoff. We'll get to that one in a moment. Next, as Yasuo runs forward, he finally fully channels the wind. But again, notice that he is not killing anyone with it. He seemingly only glances past their enemies as they drop down without a single drop of blood. At the
Alright,
beginning,
Master
it is
Roshi.
not clear what is exactly happening, but then there is the one that shows us what he's doing. Yasuo is using the wind to only knock the bandits down. He is not drawing blood, and he is not killing them. This is such a cool way to show us that even though Yasuo is once again forced to embrace the wind, he is not willing to use it to murder anyone. He
That's
is
good.
simply done with killing. Another cool detail here is that as Yasuo unleashes the wind, the binding on his arm actually rips, which is a reference to the fact that he's being unleashed again. After which, we get to the beautiful payoff. After a bit of chasing, at the end, Yasuo is faced with a cloud of arrows coming for him.
This
would be a sure kill
I
to
wasn't sure if he
Yasuo as
died.
well as anyone around
Shouldn't forget
him.
the
So I suspect
reversal,
that he channeled
no.
the tornado to knock the leader away on purpose. Again,
Save
he
so he
is
didn't
not
die.
drawing blood, so he pushed him away so he wouldn't get hit. Which leads us to the payoff itself. As Yasuo looks up, he can see the cloud of arrows, which is something
Sacrifice.
Yasuo has faced many times before. In fact, if you go back to the climb cinematic from 5
Oh,
years
yeah.
ago, you'll see that in Ionia he was once again faced with the exact same scenario. And what did he do? Of course, he summoned the wind wall to protect himself. Yes, I do believe this is what the Still Here cinematic is.
Is that a
referencing.
wolf right there?
It is supposed to
eyes?
show us that
Oh, shit.
Yasuo has a way out
I
of
actually
this
see that.
scenario. All he needs to do is to make a wind wall. So, does he do it?
Bro, that look like a wolf,
No.
bro.
That
We
does.
know that he can do it because
The
the
other one was a
cinematic
lamb.
purposefully showed
not
it to
catch
us
that?
earlier on. But he still doesn't do it, and instead he willingly embraces his own end, which is indicated by the eyes
Yeah.
of the wolf.
Oh shit.
Hey!
In the distance,
I got me
as
one,
well
yo!
as the arrow of death coming from Lamb herself.
Okay.
Damn.
Yes, Yasuo dies in this scene, and it is perhaps the
He
most
accepted his
badass death he could have asked for. Now, here we need to point out an interesting thing. After this cinematic came out, there was an article by .esports where they got to interview the creative directors of this cinematic. And
Yeah.
here it was confirmed that this was a vision given to Yasuo by Kindred themselves. Also, if you go into the description of this cinematic, you'll see that this is a possible future. Which made many people think
That
that
made me
this
feel better,
is
bro.
a what-if scenario.
made me feel-
It is
okay,
not
cool.
Yasuo's real death, and it is just what could happen if Yasuo goes down a certain path. Well, I propose this is real. And Riot just chickened out. And they wanted to have the doors open just in case they want to do something else in the future. No, I think this is how Yasuo dies. In fact, he must die like this. See, based on a bunch of different stories, we know that while League of Legends only has one true timeline, there are ways for people to look across time into a bunch of different what-if scenarios. For example, Zillion's story is all about looking into a bunch of different potential outcomes of their universe.
Doctor
Though that
Strange.
doesn't mean that the other universes are real. They are just windows into possibilities. But that's what those are. They are
Damn, that's
hypothetical
crazy.
windows. They are not real. In the
Damn, that's crazy, bro.
I know, I've never
That
really
just
seen that
fucked me
character.
up.
Yeah, it really did too, because I started thinking about Echo and I started thinking about the Arcane season. It really fucked up my head
Think
too.
about other fucking shows. That's a good way to fucking think about it.
The looking into the windows.
To the windows, it's just
yeah,
like
yeah.
endless possibilities, which are different universes, which are also like living out. But like, could they
Yeah.
possibly be real? Could they, or are they just possibility? I don't know. That fucked me up. Sorry. I'm sorry.
Mind freak.
Oh, it's fucked up.
No,
That's fucked
all right, I'm not
up,
gonna
bro.
think too much on that. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
But then, what if it's like, which one could be real? Got me shut up. Let me shut up. Let me shut up.
I'm playing the game.
real timeline, a future foreseen cannot be changed. This was always heavily implied with Olaf. That's right, Olaf is a Freljordian warrior who got a prophecy from a shaman. A prophecy that one day he's gonna die of old age in his bed. Of course, Olaf refused to believe in
yeah.
that. He was certain he would die
So
a
he get the
glorious
little
death
eternal.
in battle. And so, ever since that day, Olaf traveled around the world and he looked for the most powerful enemies to fight. From giant kraken worms which consumed entire ships, to
Krakens are
undead kings
everywhere.
with their undead
Krakens are
armies.
crazy.
Olaf fought all of it, and most of them alone. And he always survived. Because every time he got close to death, a mysterious frenzy took over his body and he came out victorious.
Because
all
that's not your
because
way
of
to
his
die.
foreseen prophecy that says
That's
that
crazy.
he's gonna
It's
die
set in
old.
stone.
And he can't change that. Which means that as long as he's fighting, he's immortal. Now, of course, Riot will
That's-
always go back and
Shit. I'd be
retcon parts
fighting all
of
the time.
Olaf's
Oh God,
story.
what you say
At
to
least
me,
that
bro?
would be for the sake of Yasuo getting a better story later on. But honestly, I kinda hope they don't. Because Yasuo's death is badass, and I hope they commit to it one day. Now, before we move on from Yasuo's storyline here, some people theorized about the background here. You can see that all of this is happening beside some snowy mountains. Now, Ionia does have some snowy mountains in the north, but pine
you're right.
trees are not exactly typical for it. This is scene is not happening in Ionia, but rather this is in the Freljord, which would indicate that during the second invasion of Ionia, which was an event teased to happen
That
many
silence
times
I
in
was
the
just talking
past,
about.
Yeah.
Noxus might either
Cold,
take over
cold
Ionia
cut.
or entirely annihilate it, forcing Ionians to travel out into other regions. So who knows? Maybe this cinematic is also teasing a very dark future for Ionians. But finally, this takes us into the final part of this cinematic, Tryndamere's battle with death. It immediately starts with a cool detail. Just like the first scene started with a view looking down on Tryndamere, indicating him descending down towards death, the second part starts with a view up, indicating that he's rising up again. Now first things first, why is Tryndamere alive here? The reason is Atrox again. Yes, later in his story, roughly about 1,000 years after his part with Kayle and Morgana, Atrox invades Tryndamere's tribe and he stabs Tryndamere with the blade, infusing him with blood magic in the process.
Fuck.
In theory, it is possible that Atrox did this to turn Tryndamere into a worthy host later on. The thing is, you know how Atrox is immortal and always bound to his weapon? Yeah, by infusing Tryndamere with blood magic, he also cursed him with the Undying Rage, turning Tryndamere immortal too. We still don't know the limits of Tryndamere's immortality, but we know that death is not gonna have a great time with him.
What if he's overpowering that
this
shit, and
scene
he's just
does
still
not happen too
Tryndamere?
long after the
Give him
first
the actual
one.
powers.
You'll see there is some evidence that shows us that this is only a few minutes or seconds after the first scene. It all starts with a snowflake that falls down onto his blade and immediately gets absorbed into it. This is because Tryndamere is an Iceborn, and his blade is infused with true ice, which is a Freljordian magical kind of ice that originates from the Yeti
Touch that
magic.
shit, you die.
And then, after Tryndamere stands up, he gets ready to face death. And based on the fact that he is not surprised at all, this is not the first time he's doing this. Now, of course, the lamp is often not alone, and so Tryndamere also gets an epic fight with the wolf. The fight itself is absolutely gorgeous, and
Okay, so a
That's
random
dope
thought.
as fuck. That's dope as fuck.
That is a crazy fucking. Random thought. Who wins in a fight, Darius or Tryndamere?
I gotta answer that now.
What do you think?
I would say Tryndamere.
Tryndamere, right? I kind of feel like that, but then I saw Darius fight Trundle.
One of
I
the
saw him
orc
fight
looking
Trundle.
motherfuckers?
Yeah, the one in right, and he beat Trundle. But I mean, granted they were younger. Maybe Trundle's smaller.
True ice.
He had true ice too, and I'm just like Tryndamere versus Trundle. Who wins? I feel like people are gonna say Trundle,
But even then though, if is it the same type of like experiment if he was to touch Darius too? Because like you know how he was touching that motherfucker and it's like true ice.
yeah, I would
So
imagine.
if it's the same thing, like
Yeah, I don't know exactly how his sword is imbued with true ice. I'd imagine it's the same thing as Trundle's axe. Or what do you have? An axe? Yeah.
he has an axe or like a hammer type situation. I'm
Yeah,
talking about
yeah.
Darius. But even then, I feel like this nigga, he's wielding a sword, true ice, and this motherfucker fighting Kindred right now. The lamb and the wolf.
Yeah. Oh, and he's immortal. What am I thinking? They just said that. So yeah, Tryndamere.
Yeah.
Sorry, I forgot the
yeah.
fact that they just said he was immortal.
All he got is
Which
the
I
dunk
knew that,
master.
yeah.
If the dunk master ain't there, then
Right.
yeah, he ain't doing shit.
Then what do we? That's fucking hilarious. Okay, let's wrap it. We're close to the end of this.
sometimes you get amazing shots such as this one. With CGI on such
He
a
still went through
stunning
the fucking
level,
blade, though.
Tryndamere just looks like a real human being here. But yes, he deflects arrows from the lamp and fights off the wolf. Because today is not his day.
You see how
Another
slow
thing
she
to point
moving?
out here is that the wolf has feet, which he
majestic.
normally doesn't. That's a cool detail. And yes, eventually, Tryndamere's Undying Rage kicks in, which is when you can start noticing some more details. First of all, when Tryndamere charges the lamb, it is awesome to see the wolf dash in to protect her. But then, Tryndamere actually gets to shatter her bow, which immediately reforms back in her hand, because you can't
She got the
stop
lamb with the
death.
wolf face, man.
In
That's
this
cold.
scene, you can also see the lamb slightly tilt her head in curiosity. It is obvious the lamb and the wolf came here to claim Tryndamere's life. But now they realize this might not be possible, which is where the confusion comes from. Immediately after that, the wolf bites into Tryndamere's shoulder. And you'll see that from that point on,
Do he
the
transfer
shoulder
some of the
pad actually stays damaged. This is an important detail, so pay attention to it. And to really just say screw you, when the lamb tries to snipe Tryndamere in the back, he just casually parries the arrow with his hand as the Undying Rage
This
goes
motherfucker.
off. The fight
Yeah.
then continues
Yeah,
for a
goodbye,
little longer
Darius.
before the lamb
Right.
finally decides that today is not Tryndamere's day. After which we get 2 arrows from Ashe flying by her, which is a slight reference to Ashe's volley ability. And the arrows stick into 2 Winter's Claw warriors behind Tryndamere, which is capped off with the image of the lamb dissolving into Ashe, Tryndamere's oath-sworn wife who came in to rescue him. That's right, the
this
2 are
motherfucker like
married,
the
although
Incredible
at
Hulk,
first they
bruh.
just got married for political reasons. The love came later. Now this dissolving
Hold on, I gotta touch on something. I remember when we did the Still Here video, a lot of people, for those of you who watched that and are now over here, a lot of people were like, oh yeah, so white girl with white hair equals old, got it. Because I was like, oh, she's older. And it's crazy because most of y'all, I'm assuming, like Necrit's always saying, don't read. So if you read the Ashe book, it's like her when she's like a teenager. So for my first encounters, I seen her as a teenager before she got her white hair, and then she ends up getting the white hair in this. She ends up getting, becoming, the whole War Mother stuff. I'm not going to tell you the whole plot of that, but like, it goes into that whole story. So when I seen her here, I'm like, oh, she's older in this. So it's not because she has white hair that I thought she was old. Obviously, we had the graphic novel then even. It's because she's older than she is right here. She wasn't married or nothing in this graphic novel, so.
Like, do we really
So,
know
yeah.
how old
Fuck
Storm
y'all.
was?
Shut up.
Trying to get on my head. I remember I was just reading the comments like, alright, I'm not going to say anything. You know what I mean? But now that we're back here, fuck all that.
Like,
All right.
how old was Holly Berry when she played Storm? I don't know, but she was mad.
Shut up.
That's funny. But true, how
Yeah.
old is Holly Berry now?
See, we don't know. That's what I'm saying. We don't know.
Okay.
image is actually hinting at what is really happening here. Especially when you combine it with the fact that in the next scene, Tryndamere's shoulder pad is still damaged. Despite the damaging being caused by the wolf, which supposedly happened in the Death Realm. Well, in theory, this would show you that all of this was only happening in Tryndamere's head. While in his mind he was fighting death itself. In reality, in the outside world, Tryndamere was fighting the other warriors of the Winter's Claw. This would be why the damage on his shoulder pad stayed physical. It was actually caused by his real enemies. He just imagined them to look like the wolf. And on top of that, I do believe that's why the image of the lamb dissolved into Ashe. It was all to show us that Tryndamere only imagined his enemies to look like the lamb and the wolf. And when Ashe arrived, she broke the illusion. To really confirm that this is what happened, you can go back to the very beginning of this cinematic for another detail. When Tryndamere was laying there at the brink of death, when he looked into the distance, despite many people believing that this was the lamb, now we know
Oh,
this
so it
was
was
more
actually
likely
Ashe with the
just
thighs.
Ashe, and she was only seconds
crazy.
away from him. The thing is, in that scene, Tryndamere was surrounded by 6 other warriors. But when Ashe arrived, she only killed 2 of them, despite the field
I mean, he
already being
killed the
clean.
others,
The
motherfucker.
cinematic specifically zooms out to show us that everyone's dead. Which means that Tryndamere
much detail.
did kill the rest of the warriors while in his undying rage. Which
Until they
finally
realize
brings
that
us to the
they're fucking
final scene, where Ashe shoots her Hawkeye into the sky to signal the Avarosans to come in and pick them up. You can see that this is in fact her Hawkeye because the arrow actually turns into a hawk. It also gets the sound effect, and it reveals that there are more warriors coming for them.
Damn.
And so, this is the Still
Man.
Here cinematic
A lot of
explained.
details,
I
man.
absolutely love this
appreciate
one,
that.
because every time you watch it, you notice something new. We spent 3 hours going through this on stream to make sure that we really pick up most of the details. But I wouldn't be surprised if more things were still coming up. Massive shout out to Riot for actually giving us a fully canonical cinematic, which did wonders to the community. Though I have to point out, there were some issues with this cinematic. Yasuo draws a line in the dirt, but mysteriously in the next scene it disappears. And Ashe kills 2 people with her arrows, but later on you can only see 1. 0 out of 10. This cinematic is ruined.
Jesus Christ.
Fucking accurate.
That's funny.
I know it was dope.
It's funny. So this is the first part that he dropped And then I noticed, I think it was like 3 days later, 14, he actually dropped the Still Here lore references got even crazier.
You want to prove that the Still Here...
Whoa. So I guess there's another 14 minutes of details that go into this. Yeah, and I was just like, fuck. But I feel unjust not including this in the video, knowing that there's more.
Motherfuckers gonna go to sleep with a 2-hour video or reaction. Nah, I'm just playing.
Yeah, 2 hour. 2 hour.
I'm fucking with you.
So, on that note, we are going to take a little break. We will be back in a couple minutes. For y'all, it'll be a couple seconds, and then we will wrap this up so you guys get the full package, because we love y'all and we do this for y'all. So, see y'all in a second.
You want to prove that the Still Here cinematic is the best cinematic ride ever released? It's going to be a week and people are still talking about it. People are still watching it and they are still finding more details. And things are getting so cool that some of the things which people previously ignored because we honestly thought that Riot just forgot about it, that's to keep on with the rule of cool. If things look badass, it is better than the integrity of a story. Well, it turns out Riot did not forget. And all the parts with Kindred got a whole another awesome layer. Damn. So today, let's talk about what the community found. And let's talk about how all the lore references are getting crazier. Now first things first, if you are wondering just how much better is the Still Here cinematic over all the other cinematics, well, according to the charts, Still Here has the fastest growing views out of all videos Riot ever released. And that includes all the views on KDA too. In fact, within the first 24 hours, KDA More was first with 12 million views, Warriors was second with 10 million, but now Still Here left them in the dust with 22 million views. And as of right now, 3 days after coming out, it is currently sitting at 80 million views.
Damn.
So rest assured, this cinematic is going places. But now, let's dive into all the things that came out around it. The first piece of new info we got actually came from League's social media. There they released a video where they quickly covered all the cinematics references to League in-game. Meaning they simply mentioned all of the champions' abilities which you could see in the cinematic. But one of their examples stood out and it left a lot of people confused. So first they showed us that Morgana used Soul Shackles, which is her ultimate. Now, in my first video I did mention that it reminds me of her Q because it's binding Atrox to the ground, but sure, I'll admit she's channeling it, so it's more like her ultimate. Regardless, Morgana was always about her chains, so it's not like it really matters. Next, Kayle uses Divine Ascent, which, as I mentioned, is her passive. Then Yasuo uses his Wind Wall, which, as I explained, is actually very important for the entire story of this cinematic, especially in relation to how the cinematic ends. After which they confirmed that here Yasuo is using Sweeping Blade. Damn. That's the ability where he's dashing through people. Now, to be honest, I still don't know how much I want to credit Yasuo just running to an ability in-game, but alright, that ability is about dashing through people, which is exactly what he did here. Just know that in this video they specifically cut it before Yasuo starts cutting through his enemies with the wind. Because I'm pretty sure that's not supposed to be part of the ability, because there he's just doing totally different thing. Anyway, I explained it in the last video. Then, of course, he's using his Steel Tempest, specifically the third hit with the Tornado. And then there is the one that confused a lot of people. Because here you can see Kindred's arrow coming in for Yasuo, and Riot calls it Hawkeye, which comes from Ashe. Outrageous, right? No, all of you just didn't pay attention. See, even though this clip is showing you this arrow from this scene, it's not actually pointing at this scene. It is cut in a way so you can see the beginning of the next scene. Because right after this arrow lands, it reveals Tryndamere's scene. And I really mean, it is very subtle, but right above the area where Tryndamere is, you can actually see the reveal VFX from Ashe's Hawkeye. Like, that is the actual effect from the Hawkshot ability, which probably explains that's how Ashe found Tryndamere in the first place. She used that ability to track him down. The fact that the scene before this one also has an arrow might be a coincidence, but it also might be planned out. Again, the details in the cinematic are totally crazy, so maybe it was all on purpose. Next, it's showing us that the wolf is using the wolf's frenzy, which, I mean, sure, he's just jumping and biting. Then, of course, Tryndamere is using Undying Rage. That was pretty obvious. But he is also using the spinning slash. This is something I almost missed in the first video, and if you go back, you can see that I had to add in a note, because I only noticed this while I was editing it. But yes, in this scene, Tryndamere is in fact spinning. Then of course we get Volley from Ashe, which was heavily nerfed because she only fires 2 arrows, and she got one more Hawkshot to end this cinematic. Which is pretty funny because Hawkshot has 2 charges and she used both. Maybe that's also not a coincidence. Now besides this video jumping into some more details, Riot also put the foreseen Yasuo skin onto BBE, where the skin got its own lore description. And it reads, Yasuo glimpsed many paths in his dreams. One saw him as an old man alone, having strayed far from his course. He had given up ambition, family, even love, all to atone for his sins which he could no longer remember. This vision was not a warning, but a reminder. For Yasuo knew he could always return to his path. He only needed to find it, or let it find him. So yes, in the end, this scene was just a vision. Which is a shame. I really hoped Riot would double down on this one. Olaf would deserve it. But
we're not finna do this. Okay. The last video we said that once you first see your death date, there's no way of running from it. So basically you're immortal until, you know what I'm saying, your foreseen death happens.
Well, that was for Olaf specifically.
That was just only for him specifically.
Yeah.
See what I mean?
Yeah, that was for him locked in his fate because he had seen his death. So he believes in his head, hey, I can't die on this battlefield. So it's not necessarily true that he can't die, but since that's what he believes, that's kind of what they're going with. At least that's the understanding that I'm getting.
So what he also said was like he also foreseen his death, and then like I don't know if this video is for him to clear it up after everybody seen more stuff in the studio, but it's just like he first saw his death, and then that's potentially how it might happen. That's what he said in the last video.
I don't know the difference between Olaf seeing his death, like who showed Olaf his death.
I know he cleared it up just now. It just like kind of confused the fuck out of me. He first seen his death, now it's just a vision.
Yeah, I don't know who showed. Let's go back because I don't know who showed Olaf his vision and who showed Yasuo his vision. I wonder if they're like different people or something.
Yeah, but if it's like still if it's still Kindred and the Wolf and Lamb, whatever. If it's them showing it, then it's like double. What is it? A double entendre? Not a double entendre.
Double negative.
A hypocrite.
It's motherfucking bullshit.
It's a hypocrite.
Alright, let's see.
Just a vision. Which is a shame. I really hoped Riot would double down on this one. Olaf would deserve it. But it's interesting to see that it says that he had given up on his ambition, family, even love. If the Ruined King taught us anything, he does have love in his life. Though he did decide to go somewhere else towards Noxus to find his destiny, and
got that far
maybe that's why he's confused now. His story ended in a place where everyone believed that he would be looking for Riven. But then during the Sentinels of Light, Riven was freed from the Noxian prison, and you know what? I don't really know what's happening. What I do know...
Wait, sorry, what?
Sorry, I just tried to throw it in there quick.
No, you're good.
You think the Lamb kind of like... woke his ass up to let him know like you have to use to win the fight in a way, or this is your outcome?
I don't know if that's really the Lamb's job is to like stop people from dying. Really, they want, they're there to be the Grim Reaper. I don't know if they would do anything to help him.
Yeah, I think I'm trying to say like his vision came about and it was corresponding with the whole concept of like the death idea, and he was just like woken up to it like I have to fight or I will die or some shit like that. I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, I see what you're saying. Oh,
it's not real.
I see what
it's
you're
his
saying.
own personal vision, but it's just like the way I'm moving right now, the life I'm choosing, no love, no nothing. You know what I'm saying? I need to get back to who I was, and then release the bandages and out there fighting again. So now he.
Well, it's tricky because at the end of at the end of that part, he accepted his death. So it's like I don't.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah. All right, my bad. I'll stop.
No, you're good. Mind freak.
Know is that this is a vision and we still don't really know what Yasuo is doing right now. It's just that if Yasuo decides to just give up on everything he had ever done, he would not end up in a happy place. Speaking of which, this is perhaps where the coolest new detail rose. You see, as people dug deeper and deeper into all the storylines surrounding Kindred, they realized that all of their previous lore still lines up here. And it all goes back to that one final scene. Now, the first thing some people pointed out here is that there is no way that this is an arrow from the lamb. As you could clearly see, lamb has clean arrows without an arrowhead, which is true. That's why this arrow represents the arrow from the lamb, because that's the arrow that delivered the kill. In a way, that's how Kindred claimed him. Remember that the lamb and the wolf are not really there as part of the physical world. It's not like the lamb was actually standing there in the army just waiting with her shot. Not to mention they would have to be some kind of Santa Claus to really deliver every kill on everyone who ever dies. I have no idea if this explanation makes any sense to you, but a lot of how the lamb and the wolf work comes from the mind of the one who's dying.
I see.
So in short, yes, the arrow still represents the arrow of death that came from the lamb, even though it is physically an arrow that came from the bandits. In fact, it is this detail that revealed some cool references. And honestly, it is something I didn't mention at first because I didn't believe Riot was really paying attention to it. But especially after watching the Tryndamere fight for the 8th time now, it all makes so much more sense now. You see, the lamb and the wolf work as a pair, and they each claim a different kind of souls. The lamb is the one who takes lives peacefully. Whenever someone dies and they are ready to just pass into the afterlife, the lamb is the one who delivers the final blow with a swift arrow. But in case someone refuses to die and they want to fight till the last moment, the wolf steps in and he gives them the fight they were looking for. That's why, even in the in-game quotes, the wolf always wants everyone to run away from the lamb. He wants them to not want to die, because that way he gets to chase them.
Peacefully they go.
Hungry we follow.
Wolf chases or does not willingly go.
As a fun fact, for example, in Noxus, they don't really believe in the lamb. To them, death is just the wolf, because Noxians always fight till their last breath. And so the lamb rarely gets anything to do. So going back to the...
You know, this brings me back to, like, when we were sitting... this is another fucking ADHD. I would blame it on that. But this brings me back to when we watched the Blood, Sweat, and Tears video. And Mbessa refers to Mel as, like, the fox. So then after that, we watched the Yasuo and Yone video. And me and you were both like, oh, are you talking about the fox and the wolf? Because we had just watched the Mbessa video and she just said Fox and the Wolf, so it was in our head. And I know in the fucking comments of that Yasuo video, people, and this is for like character cinematics and stuff like that. You guys might know what we're referring to. But I remember people were just going crazy in the comments, like trying to make it seem like Mackie was like a victim, like we're like, oh, y'all gaslighting this poor kid, and I was just like, gaslighting? What the fuck? In the whole video, we're like trying to figure out. Because Mackie does mix up things. Like Mackie's actually dyslexic, so he mixes things up all the time. So it's interesting because like YouTube start like promoting the fuck out of like for some reason that video. So and I think because all the comments and shit like that, you know, all our league videos, I guess, get different comments. But it's funny because someone just like right before we're gonna film this, like had commented that. So just seeing that again, just all this talk about lamb and the wolf and shit like that, it always reminds me of that whole thing.
Don't get mad at us.
Right, we all just trying to figure out what's going on. It's crazy because people were trying to paint this this narrative like damn, why y'all bullying Mackie for? And I'm over here just like, shit's crazy.
Oh, man, dude.
Shit's crazy.
Shit happens, you know.
Yeah, amen. Shit's crazy.
Oh, man,
Shit's crazy.
Shit happens, you know.
Yeah, amen. Good stuff.
There's consequences to your actions.
Maybe if you stop, okay, stop oppressing him, then we. All right, that's okay. Let's finish this video than I thought it was gonna be.
the Yasuo scene.
With the second half.
This cinematic specifically highlights that the arrow is the one that delivered the kill. And it visually hints that it is the arrow of the lamb. Because in this scene, Yasuo accepted the peaceful death. That's why he closed his eyes and accepted it all. Which is also why seeing the wolf in the distance gets so much more meaning. The reason why we can see the wolf in the distance, seemingly not doing anything, while Lamb claims the kill, is because the wolf is watching and patiently waiting to see if Yasuo decides to fight. Because should Yasuo keep fighting here, the wolf will get a chance to step in. That's the real choice Yasuo made in this scene. We all know that he had the ability to keep going here. The cinematic specifically showed us that he could use the wind wall to save himself here. But instead of letting the wolf chase him, he decided to embrace the lamb. It is insane to see just how much of this was portrayed by a single glowing arrow in the sky. Now, what's cool is that a similar thing also happened in Tryndamere's fight. Around the internet, I saw a lot of people talking about the fact that the wolf did all the fighting, and the lamb didn't do much to take him down. But in reality, that was absolutely on purpose. From the moment Tryndamere stood up, he was presented with a choice. Would he go down peacefully or would he fight the wolf? That is why the first one he saw was the lamb, who acted as the one to present this choice. But of course, this was likely not the first time they fought. In fact, looking back, it is impossible for this to be their first fight. Logically, Tryndamere had to fight them at least once in the past. That would be the moment Atrox killed him and infused him with the blood magic. That's also why, in this cinematic, the wolf didn't hesitate to jump in. To them, it was obvious what would happen next. But now you may be asking, well, if it was the wolf's job to take Tryndamere down, why did the lamb shoot arrows at all? The reason is in fact very simple. Every time the lamb shot an arrow, it was to check if Tryndamere would accept the peaceful death. That's why, if you go through the entire fight, you'll see that the lamb doesn't rapidly fire off all the time. She shoots once, and then she watches from a distance for a while as the fight with the wolf keeps going. To her, this wasn't a fight after all. She didn't have a reason to keep firing. She only did it occasionally to see if Tryndamere made up his mind. And in fact, she only shot 2 arrows before Tryndamere successfully fought him off. And every time he parried one of the lamb's arrows, he did it with the ferocity of a warrior, really denying that peaceful kill. So yes, as it turns out, even the way they fought in this cinematic had much deeper lore. And now, all of this ties into one single thing that popped off on Reddit. There was a lot of talking about Kindred tilting her head. I absolutely love this one because it could have many different meanings. And as they said in this post, it could be confusion. Why is he not dead yet? Mockery. You really thought that would work? Challenging. Oh, so you really want to fight? Curiosity. Let's see where this goes then. Recognition. This guy is kinda good, to be honest. Surprise. Yo, what the hell you doing, bro? Indifference. Okay, sure. Do your thing. Patience. I'm busy tonight. Please die. Now, given all the context we have now, I do believe the real purpose here is curiosity. Because here they are, presented with a man who refused both the peaceful arrow of the lamb and the ferocious bite of the wolf. Because despite the wolf really trying, he can fight them off. Which is not something Kindred get to see too often. And so yeah, that's all the new details that popped off in the last 3 days after the cinematic came out. Yeah, as I mentioned, this cinematic is going places. I love how around the internet there were a lot of people who didn't really like this cinematic because apparently it didn't have as much lore as some of the previous ones, like the Call. In the meantime, this one has more lore than all of the previous ones combined. But yeah, now I'm curious what else people are gonna notice in this one. As of right now, there are 80 million views on this cinematic. And I wonder how much of this is just people who keep watching it over and over again. For context, Brink of Infinity has 3 million. And I'm pretty sure most people didn't even finish watching it once.
That's funny.
Ah!
Yeah, when we did our reaction, actually, we were watching all the season cinematics. So I think our Still Here videos, we had Brink Infinity right before we did that one. Yeah. So, and we were, if you guys want to see our reaction to the Still Here or the Brink Infinity, you can go and check that out. I'll probably link it at the end of this video. I wonder how many views Still Here has right now, though. What is it? 134 million. Wow.
Damn.
Yeah, that's wild.
And it's still here. It's still going.
Jesus. Oh, damn. Yeah, it's still building. That's really crazy. I wonder if it's still the highest viewed video. Yeah, 12 million. So, yeah, look, it's probably still the highest viewed one that I know of. Damn, only 12 million?
Exactly. You seen that? Go back to that other number. It ain't do shit. It ain't even do shit. It ain't even scratch a dent. This motherfucker got 100.
Million? Damn.
100.
Yeah, and I mean, it's because Blood, Sweat, and Tears is also a music video, and that was for Arcane rather than like the cinematic for League, I'm guessing. But yeah, man, it was a great video. Great video. I'm glad that we came back and caught up on all those details. I feel like a lot of that stuff I've seen in like comments and from people that in the Discord and all that good stuff. So I feel like I've been filled in now, but it was good. There was a lot of details in that one. A lot of fucking details.
It's crazy how it was a lot of details. People caught it the first time, a little bit of it. Then you got a second video breaking down the actual things that you may have missed. And then you have another fucking video breaking down the shit that you missed.
Yeah, I feel like that second video didn't have too much more craziness. I mean, all the in-game stuff was interesting, but
It's just a few.
yeah, it wasn't like too much, you know what I mean? So,
Shit.
yeah, all right, man. That's all I got.
I guess I will say, shit, if you made it all the way to the end, like, comment, subscribe, cut on that notification.
Yeah. If you've been binge watching our League of Legends videos, and you found yourself in a wormhole, might as well hit the subscribe button because we're going to keep doing it. You know, we're going to keep dropping League content. If you like Warhammer, we'll be dropping that. We're going to keep expanding. We're still in the early stages of our channel, really. Like, we're under 10,000 subscribers as of this video. We're at like 8,000 something. Building our way up. We should hit 10,000 in the next couple months, hopefully. So, yeah.
Keep showing that love.
Yeah, man. Appreciate you guys. Until next time. Much love. Peace.